Hi everyone, my name is Chris and today we are going to be talking about gardening, specifically seeds. I'm going to go through what I'm growing this year in our garden. If you haven't already thought about what you're going to grow, now is a perfect time to start planning and getting your seeds. If you wait come spring, then you might find that a lot of the seeds that you wanted to grow are already sold out. So I have finished my seed buying for the year. I'm just going to go through here what I have and what I plan to grow. A good portion of these seeds are from either Baker Creek or M.I. Gardener, with a few exceptions. And this is the first year I'm actually growing M.I. Gardener seeds, and so I'm really excited to give them a try because I hear such fantastic things about them. I've grown Baker Creek seeds for years and had good luck with quite a few of their varieties. I actually did not put in any new orders to Baker Creek this year. All of the seeds from them that I have are seeds that I have from either last year or even years before that. I'll talk about the way I store seeds maybe in another video, but today we're just going to talk about varieties. And I will talk about what I've grown before and what I haven't grown before. So we'll start with the peas. I have Lincoln peas, and I have not grown this variety before, but it does say that it has high resistance and productivity, which is perfect, especially because our spring seasons have been unusually wet recently. So I wanted something that was hopefully going to be able to handle those wet springs. We'll see if this does the trick. I also have a sugar ant pea. This is a snap pea that only should get about 18 to 24 inches tall. So it will fit in one of my green stalks perfectly because it doesn't need a large trellis in order to grow. I love snap peas. My favorite thing to do with these is just taking them straight off the vine and eating them. They are one of my favorite spring snacks in the garden, so I had to make sure to include these. I can't remember the variety I had last year. It was just from my local big box store, my local Kroger store, but I wasn't a huge fan of the flavor of it, so I'm hoping that these will be a lot better. I have 3 different types of green beans. I have the Kentucky Wonder, Contender Bean, and Maxibel Haricot. I got these specifically because they are apparently one of the best green beans to cook with. So I thought, why not give it a try? These are a bush bean, so no trellising or anything is required for those. The Contender bean is also a bush bean. So this is, on the back of it says, one of the best bush beans ever. It produces a week earlier than others, has a strong flavor that holds during canning. I don't actually can green beans. I'm not the biggest fan of the texture of them when you can them. So I typically freeze them instead because I like them to retain some of that crunch, and I find when you can them, they get kind of mushy. But we'll see what those turn out like. And then the last one is a Kentucky Wonder pole bean. And I have grown these before, but it's been a long time because I don't have a whole lot of space in my garden So I tend to not grow as many pole type beans as bush beans because they just fit in the space that I have a little bit better. But we're gonna give this a try because I am planning to expand my garden out into my front yard. Hopefully nobody complains about that because I don't know that we're specifically supposed to be doing that. Because unfortunately I do have an HOA and I'm pretty sure it says we're not supposed to grow food in our front yard. But these are pretty and they're functional and I'm gonna do it anyway. We'll see how it goes. Surely they won't make me tear it out when it's growing and I can just make a note not to do it again. It's one of those things where, you know, you ask forgiveness instead of permission. For corn, I have a couple varieties of corn, I think. I have two varieties of corn I'm growing. One is the Golden Bantam and one is Ambrosia Sweet. They are both supposed to be really great for fresh eating as well as canning. The Ambrosia Sweet says it's a peaches and cream variety of corn that is creamy and wonderful eaten raw or cooked. So we love our corn here, so we're going to give both of these a try. I haven't grown either of these varieties before. Last year I had a big problem with my corn, not because it wouldn't grow, but because I had some little critter who would come steal the kernels out of the ground when I planted them. So I didn't actually get any corn last year because the few stalks that didn't get stolen and eaten that were actually able to grow just weren't enough to pollinate. You do need a pretty decent patch of corn in order to pollinate because they are wind pollinated. If you don't have a good patch, then your chances of the pollen going from one stalk to another is not as good. So that was my problem last year. I'm actually going to start these indoors this year versus just planting the kernels, and I'm going to wait until they're probably a good 4 or 5 inches tall before I put them out, hoping that that will solve my little theft problem. For celery, I'm going to grow the Utah tall celery. I've grown this before and it's done really well. And I'm actually going to be starting these today along with my onion seeds. I have Patterson onions. This is, I believe this is the only hybrid seed that I'm growing this year, is the Patterson onion seeds. And I have heard from other people in my area that these do really well here. I have not had the greatest luck growing onions. I'm still figuring them out. Most of the time they turn out pretty small. Occasionally I can get a decent sized one, but most of them stay pretty small. So I'm going to try these this year since I know they do really well in our area and see how it goes. Both of these we're actually going to be starting today. Today's January 2nd. It says to start them 8 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. My last frost date in my area is estimated to be April 15th. Technically, I don't have to start these until mid-January, but I am going to start them now because I found that even giving them a couple extra weeks does help them be a little bit bigger and a little bit more robust. So we are going to start these together. It will be another video. Here are all the vegetables we're going to grow this year. I'm going to do the hollow crown parsnip. This is a parsnip I have never grown before. I'm really excited about it because it does say that its flavor is so good and it's reminiscent of potato and carrot. The roots are large, averaging about 1 to 2 inches in diameter, and it stores really well. And that's what really drew me to this. Not only is the flavor supposed to be really good, but it's supposed to store really well. And I really wanted to focus on some varieties that are going to store. So we'll be able to have more fresh vegetables over the course of the winter than what we have had previously. For carrots, I have 5 different varieties here that we're going to grow together. So I'm doing the Atomic Red. I'm going to try this Uzbek Golden Carrot from Baker Creek, which was one of the free seeds that they gave me. I'm going to do the Black Nebula Carrot, Royal Chantenay, and Danvers 126. The Danvers 126, I grew this last year and it did well. Out of the carrots that I tried, this one definitely did the best, and it gave me some really nice sized carrots that tasted really delicious. So this one I know is going to be a hit. The other ones, I chose these, one because I wanted a bunch of different colors of carrots. I love carrots, and nothing makes me happier than seeing a plate of food that has a bunch of different colors on it. So I like to try carrots that have different colors. I am not entirely sure if all of these are going to do well in my area or not. So we're going to find out. But I'm excited to give them a try. I have 2 different types of turnips, so the purple top white globe and the golden ball turnip. These I also chose because they should store really nicely. The purple top white globe turnip is the one that's kind of the traditional turnip. You see them in the stores, a lot of people grow them, they do really great. I'd never actually grown turnips before, but I don't expect to have any problems growing either of these really. Because having different colors of vegetables makes me happy, I wanted to have a golden turnip as well. And I've never actually had a golden turnip, so I'm really excited to see the flavor of these and to see how they differ from the white ones. 2 different kinds of beets. The Chioggia beet and the Detroit dark red beet. This is just your basic beet, red beet that you find pretty much everywhere. It's delicious. It should store really well. It should do really great in preserves for pickling or fermenting. And then this one is going to add some beautiful color. So this says that it is perfect for salads and pickling. It's sweet and delicious. So I saw this and I really loved the stripes, and I just had to give it a try. I only have 2 types of radishes here. The Scarlet Globe says that they are sweet and crispy. The watermelon radish has a bit of spice to it, and the spice is actually one thing I really love about radishes. So I'm really looking forward to that. So those are all of the root crops that I have. For the greens that I'm growing, I have 3 different types of spinach. The giant winter spinach, Verdale spinach, and American spinach. They all should do really well in my area, especially because they're all cold weather crops and our spring tends to be kind of cold and wet. I love spinach in just about everything. I love it as a lettuce replacement in sandwiches, to top sandwiches. I think spinach in general just gives a sandwich so much more flavor than lettuce does. So I really like to have it on sandwiches. I love to have it in salads, sauteed and add to scrambled eggs or quiche or anything like that. I just love spinach. So I have these 3 varieties I'm going to try out. I've never tried any of these varieties, so we'll see how they go. I'm hoping that they won't bolt. I've had that problem before with spinach, that it bolted before I could get a good harvest out of it, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. This American spinach says it is slow to bolt, so we'll see. I have Wild Rocket arugula. Arugula is also amazing in sandwiches and salads and all kinds of things. My husband really loves arugula. We're gonna grow some of this year. I have red romaine lettuce. I love the idea of having a different colored romaine lettuce. So we're gonna try this out and see how it goes. I've grown the green romaine before. We're gonna try the red this year. Hope that it tastes every bit as good as the green does. And then I have this mixed lettuce seed that came with one of my green stalks. We're gonna give that a try too. I got this last year when in one of my green stock orders. I don't remember which one. I had a few, but I didn't actually grow any of this last year. So we're gonna give it a try this year and see what happens. It looks like there's a mix of green and red lettuce in here, so it should be interesting to see what we get. For brassicas, I have a Brunswick cabbage and a red acre cabbage. These are the two types of cabbage I'm gonna grow. The Brunswick is green, and then of course the red acre is red. I like red cabbage more than I like green cabbage, but mixing them together is fantastic. So I wanted to have one of each variety so that I could use them for fermenting. We can use them for coleslaw. I really love coleslaw. My husband isn't a fan of it, but I love it. So excited to be able to have my own cabbages to make some coleslaw. I have two different types of cauliflower, the purple of Sicily and the snowball. I have tried growing the snowball before, not from M.I. Gardner. I believe the seeds were from Baker Creek. And it did okay. Not great, but okay. I've never tried the purple of Sicily. I am doing these a little bit different this year, starting them a little bit earlier and getting them outside. We'll see how these go. And then I have one type of broccoli, the calabrese. Last year I grew the Waltham, I believe it was, and they actually didn't really get a chance to do very well before they were eaten. This is the one that you see most often in stores when you buy broccoli from the grocery store. This particular variety also has the added bonus of having one big head, and then it likes to send off little shoots as well. So you get kind of more bang for your buck with this. One of my biggest problems with growing brassicas is getting the plants to get bigger than about 4 to 5 inches. And the problem with that is that they're tasty. Their leaves are tasty, their stalks are tasty, they just are very tasty plants. So we are not the only ones who enjoy eating them. I had one bed of cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. They were mixed together in one of my 2x8 raised beds. Every single plant was eaten before it really had a chance to do anything out there. I had just transplanted them, and within like 3 or 4 days they were all gone. So I decided to take some of the plants I had left and put them in a green stock, hoping that keeping them a little elevated would help that problem. But my dogs found them and decided they really love snacking on them too. So before I knew it, they had pulled almost all of them out, and I lost almost every single brassica plant that I planted last year. So lesson learned. We're gonna try a little bit different strategy this year and see if we can actually get them to grow long enough to get a harvest out of them. For cucumbers, I have two different types. I have the National Pickling and Ashley cucumber. I've grown the National Pickling before, not through M.I. Gardner, but through someone else. I can't remember who I bought the seeds from last time. But they have done well for me before, so we're going to do these in hopes of having some pickling cucumbers. The Ashley cucumber is going to be the slicing cucumber, and I have not grown this one before, but it does say that it's disease resistant, heat tolerant, and less susceptible to powdery mildew. which is what drew me to this particular variety. That is a problem with my area because we do tend to be so wet, especially early on in the early to late spring. We don't typically dry out until, gosh, like July. And then when we dry out, like we seriously dry out. Hopefully this will be able to tolerate the wet start to the end of our spring and early summer, and then the hot, dry summers that we typically have. For zucchini, I have the gray zucchini. I grew this last year, but I grew it in a container. I got one zucchini out of it, and that was it. And I don't think it had anything to do with the seeds or the plant. I think it had to do with the fact that it was in a container and it just wasn't very happy. But I was really pleased with the one zucchini that I did get from it. So I'm excited to try it again, but not in a container. Then the early prolific straight neck yellow squash. I've grown that before and it's done really well. I've actually had these seeds for, gosh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, but they still germinate just fine, so I don't have a problem. So I haven't had to buy these in, well, I don't know how long. We're gonna give this a try alongside the zucchini this year. I just do one plant of each of those because when it says prolific, it really means prolific. We don't eat enough summer squash to really justify having like multiple plants. Plus, I only have so much garden space, so these plants get pretty big, and so I just can't justify taking up all that space knowing that we're not going to be able to enjoy all of the produce that this is going to give us. For watermelon, I'm going to try Sugar Baby. I have grown this before, but I didn't get it out in time in order for it to really do much. So it's been a few years since I've tried it, but this is also another one that's going to go in my front yard. Hopefully, I'm going to have it trailing along the ground amongst a bunch of different flowers and herbs, medicinal herbs. So hopefully nobody will really notice that there are watermelon in the middle of a bunch of flowers. But it's really the only space that I have for them. As well, the cantaloupe here will be joining them, the honey rock cantaloupe. I've never grown this variety before. Cantaloupe, this is an early maturity variety. It only takes 80 days. And since our growing season is not really long here, I believe it's around 120 days, if I remember correctly. A lot of varieties of melons and winter squashes have a hard time. So these are also ones that you shouldn't typically start indoors because they don't like their roots messed with. But in order for me to be able to grow them, I'm going to have to start them indoors. Otherwise, well, the cantaloupe and the watermelon here should be okay. The watermelon says 75 to 90 days. And with the cantaloupe being 80 days, I should be able to direct sow them, but I'm not going to take my chances and I'm going to start them inside. The winter squash here, I have the winter luxury pumpkin. I've grown this before with seeds from Baker Creek and it did really well, so I'm excited to grow this again. Last year I tried a different type of pie pumpkin, the New England sugar pie, and the pumpkins that I got from it were really pretty good sized pumpkins, but the problem was that they never matured, so they never got past their green stage before the cold weather set in. This year I'm going to go back to the luxury pie because those did really great the last time that I grew them. Sweet meat squash was actually developed in the Pacific Northwest, so I know that it does really great in this area. I planted this last year, but I planted it too late, so I didn't get a harvest out of this because I didn't give it enough time. So we're also going to start this indoors this year because just in case we have another cold, wet spring, then this has a chance to actually do something outside. This is the Waltham butternut squash. I've never grown butternut squash before, but I have developed a love for it, so I'm really excited to give this a try. This squash and the Table King bush acorn squash I'm also planning to do in my front yard, and I'm going to do them as trellises. We're going to hopefully build these trellises in a way that make them look pretty and make my neighbors fall in love with them instead of be irritated that I have food growing in my front yard when I'm not actually supposed to. And for those of you who are saying, well, move out of your area so you don't have an HOA, that is easier said than done. We have not had the ability to move yet. We are planning on it, but we can't yet for a variety of reasons. And when we bought our house, we did the best we could. Like, there just isn't very many options in this area that don't have an HOA. And the ones that do are typically outside of the city, outside of towns, any kind of town, big or small. And they come with a lot of land, which means they come with a very large price tag around here. And it was just something we couldn't afford. So we ended up with a house with an HOA, which was not ideal, but we make the best of it until we can pass it off to somebody else and move into our dream home. On to the peppers. I have quite a few different peppers here that I'm going to grow. Some of these I have grown before. Actually, a good portion of these I've grown before. So I have two different cayennes. This is the typical cayenne bush plant. And then I have this dragon cayenne, which is like a dwarf plant. I grew both of, well, I've grown these cayennes for several years and they've done really well for me. The dragon cayenne I grew last year. I put these in green stalks and they did really well for me as well. So I'm excited to have these again. I have two different jalapenos here. I have Craig's Grande, which I've grown for multiple years and have been very happy with. And then I also have an early jalapeno pepper that I'm going to try this year. So this one says it only takes 75 days to maturity. And the peppers get up to 3 inches. They're very prolific. So I'm hoping that between the two of them, I can get all of the jalapenos I'm going to need. For some reason, hot peppers just seem to do better for me than bell peppers, which is unusual because they usually have a longer growing season, but for whatever reason, I usually get a lot more of them than I do bell peppers. This is a new one that I'm going to grow, Serrano. I love a little bit of heat to pretty much everything that I eat. So I'm upping my hot pepper game and adding Serrano peppers this year. I also have these poblanos. I grew these poblanos for the first time last year and I got several really good sized poblanos. So I'm hoping this year I can do even better. Pretty much all of these peppers I'm going to grow in a green stalk this year. And I think the big problem I had last year is just that peppers are heavy feeders and I wasn't the best at making sure that they had fertilizer on a regular basis. So my pepper harvest was not as good as it could be. So this year we're going to do better. I got this packet, Pepper, Fire, and Ice from Seeds and Such. This is where this company from Augusta, Georgia, is where I got my onion seeds from, and they sent me this as a free packet and a tomato as a free packet. So I thought I would give this a try. It's supposed to be a pretty small plant really good for containers. So I don't know much about it, but I thought, you know, it was a free, so why not try 1 or 2 of them and see what happens. The rest of these are bell peppers. I have California Wonder, and I actually have 2 sets of these because I bought one from M.I. Gardner, and then I bought an extra green stock over their Black Friday sale, and they sent me a packet as well. So I have more than enough California Wonders. The Jupiter bell pepper I bought last year, and the plants actually did okay. Again, I wasn't the greatest at feeding them, and I think that made a huge difference. But we're gonna try it again. The bullnose pepper. Honestly, I'm growing this because I absolutely love the name. I tried it last year, and although the plants did pretty well, I didn't get much out of them. So we're gonna try it again, taking better care of them and see what happens. But I just love the name, bullnose pepper. Who doesn't want to grow that? King of the North, I've grown for a couple of years, and this is supposed to be really great for northern climates like us. So we're gonna grow this again, and this one also did just okay. Not great, but we're gonna do better this year. And this is a Chocolate Beauty. I have grown this before. It's been a couple of years since I grew it, but this variety, although the seeds came from somebody other than M.I. Gardner, I think they came from Baker Creek when I grew up the last time. But this variety actually did really well. Out of bell peppers, this variety probably has done the best for me. So we're gonna grow it again. And all of these bell peppers, they're gonna be grown in a green stock, and I'm gonna grow them at the top of the green stock. And the reason for that is because my dogs love bell peppers probably even more than I do. And as soon as they get about 2 inches big, inevitably my dogs find them, especially one dog. She just loves her vegetables and she steals them. So when you go on garden tours with me and you see all of my planting spaces, you'll notice that every single one of them is either caged in or we're going to be caging them in together. And that is because she will get into them and she will trample the plants and steal all of the vegetables from the plants. So she's a little rascal. Last but not least are the tomatoes, the stars of the garden. Rio Verde tomatillos. I grow these pretty much every year. They generally do really well for me, so we're going to grow them again. This is another one that I bought seeds. Well, looks like I bought these seeds back in 2016, and they still germinate just perfect. It's a really good example that you don't have to buy seeds every single year. If you get a variety that you really like and does really well, chances are there are more seeds in the packet than what you're going to be able to plant in most cases. As long as you store them properly, you can use them year after year after year. Case in point, this will be my 6th year using the same packet of seeds. Last year they germinated perfectly. I don't expect any different this year. Oh, I forgot a pepper. It ended up in the tomatoes, the paprika. I grew this last year as well. It did pretty good, so we're gonna grow that again. So I have the Roma, which is one of my favorites for making pasta or diced tomatoes or pretty much anything. I love the Romas. This was a new one that I tried last year, the Martino's Roma. This is more of a dwarf variety. I planted these in the green stalks and they actually did remarkably well. I'm not going to put them in the green stalks this year. I'm going to put them in one of my beds and hopefully they will do even better. But I was very impressed with this variety, so we're going to try it again. San Marzano, of course, everybody knows San Marzanos. This is kind of hit or miss with these. The plants themselves did really good. It grew a lot of fruit, but I had a lot of blossom end rot problems with them. So I'm going to try it again this year and see if I can't resolve those problems and get a nicer crop. With the tomatoes I did get from those plants that did not develop blossom end rot were amazing. My new variety for paste tomatoes is the Jersey Devil. This is supposed to grow quite big. The fruit can grow up to 6 inches long. It says it's very flavorful, perfect for use in sauces and salsas, which is perfect for me because that's pretty much what I use my tomatoes for. I have a couple of smaller ones, 2 cherry tomatoes. I have the pink bumblebee and the Chadwick, both of which I've grown before. I've grown the Chadwick for several years and they do amazing. They produce a lot of fruit. The fruit tends to come in a little bit late in my area, but that's not a problem. It's not a problem for me. I mean, when it sets fruit, it really sets fruit. And I had so many cherry tomatoes last year that I was literally handing them out by the gallon Ziploc bag full, like begging people to help me eat them. I also turned a lot of them into sauce because I just had more than I could handle. There's a point where you just cannot eat these fast enough, so I recruited other people to help me. The pink bumblebee, I grew these last year. It was the first time I'd ever grown them and I really liked their flavor. They're very sweet. Their skins are a little bit thick, so if you don't like the thicker skins, then this is probably not a good variety for you. But I found that it didn't really bother me because the sweetness of them made up for that. So I'm going to grow these again since I really enjoyed them. And then this is the other free packet I got from Seeds and Such. It is the chocolate pear. I don't know that much about it, so I thought since I have them, I would grow 1 or 2 plants and see what happens. The other 3 are my beefsteak tomatoes. The Dr. Witchies or white cheese, or however you pronounce this one. I grew these last year and they did really well and I really enjoyed them, so we're growing them again this year. I've heard amazing things about the Paul Robeson, so I'm going to grow these this year too. They should do really well for my area. I'm really excited to give these ones a try and see what happens because I only hear really great things about them. And then this one is another free seed that I got, the terracotta, that I've never tried before, but I really like the idea of having the multicolored tomatoes. So we have reds, we have the yellow, we have kind of the purplish color, and then this one is more of an orangey pink. It says it has out of this world flavor, so we'll find out. So those are all of the varieties I am planning to grow this year. Some of them I grew last year and had great success with it. Most of these are actually new varieties because I am planning to expand my garden this year and do some things a little bit differently so that hopefully my plants will actually grow and not be eaten by pests, including my dogs, who definitely count as a pest in the garden. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some ideas. You'll get to see me start all of these and watch them grow along with me this summer. I love experimenting, and every year I try to pick some things that I have never grown before just to see if they do well or not, because there are very few things that I am married to in my garden right now. Trying new things is really fun and really exciting to me. I hope you join me for the journey for the 2023 garden. I hope you learn stuff from me. I hope I get to learn stuff from you. Here's to a good growing year. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button. If you want to be sure to follow me on this year's growing journey, please hit the subscribe button. And if you hit the bell right next to subscribe, you'll get notified when I upload my next video. Subscribing really does help. It helps YouTube know that you know, we're producing content that is valuable to people. So it really does help when you like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed my seed haul with me, and I hope to see you next time.